spot the difference. Okay, they're both the same. This is the number 3 Chevrolet Corvette, product code C3189, and these are the detailed ones, obviously, so the ones with lights. And this is the Scalextric video on modified versus unmodified. So you may be wondering what we're talking about. Right, first up, we haven't altered the motors in the cars. They are standard. The only things that are changed on this car are the following: the magnets and the lights were cut out from the rear, and also the tyres have been changed on the car. Whereas this one is standard and out the box. This is going to show the difference of having the standard magnet you get in every other single Scalextric car that they've made, compared to the new, much smaller, much worse, much more stupid magnet in the new car. And also, to show you that we're not like slating this car, we're going to compare it to, say, one of the best selling cars, the Audi R8, and we may compare it to the Aston Martin, which is another detailed car. So this will basically show what's wrong with, obviously both of these cars will be detailed that we are testing against, and then for the super resistant video we'll test it against the super resistant Audi and the super resistant Jaguar XKR.
Okay, so what we're going to do is 5 laps of this track, and it's got a crossover in it, so you have to go around twice to get 1 lap. And we're just driving the Corvette, and as you can see, it's really hard to keep on the track. It's terrible around the corners, and this is the unmodified one, by the way. It just will not stay on, and you have to be so delicate with it. It's diabolical, really, to drive. It's not the best car. And look, if you take your eye off it just for like a second, you will fall off the track. It's like, I mean, I've never driven a car so lack of grip and that you can barely put any power down before it falls off. It's basically driving without a magnet. I mean, I think without a magnet you'd actually be more careful, because you know you've got one. You know you haven't got one, so you're like, drive better, but it's just not good enough. It needs a much better magnet. And it did that track. This fastest lap was 8.3 seconds, which is very, very slow for this lane. It's just too slow. Same setup, 5 laps. This is the modified Corvette now, with the standard tyres and the new, well, not the new magnet, the correct size magnet, shall we say. Now, as you can see, a much different, like, much larger difference compared to the car. The car will go round the corner, you can push it more, it's much more faster, it grips more, and it's a lot more fun to drive, unlike its predecessor, which is difficult to drive, and it just shoots around. I mean, look, it's when it kicks out, it slides, and then it flipped in the middle of the track. That's how, how far you can slide that car before it actually crashes. Going around it as fast as I can now, it has fallen off a few times, but even with that, it's still a lot faster, and it is 5.9. So it's 3.4 seconds faster. So that's a lot. That's a major difference. 2 point. No, it's actually 2 point something. Anyway, this is the Audi now. Same setup. 5 laps. This is completely unmodified. This car. It's got no standard tyres. It's got the old magnet in it, and it's straight out the box. And it's the first time I'm using this, so we'll just watch and see how it goes. So that's just half a lap, and the only bit it struggles at is the radius 1. When I was driving it, it didn't feel as fast as the Corvette. I wasn't pushing it as much because of the non-standard tyres and the fact that it hasn't got basically, yeah, standard tyres, and it's a new car as well. Trying not to damage it. It goes very well. I don't think I crashed at all with this car. It hasn't crashed yet, so and it's just going around quite nicely. It's smooth and it's consistent, and with a lap time of 6.6, it's just over half a second slower, but you can easily make that up with sanding the tyres and changing some things on it. Aston Martin DBR9, and you may recognise this one as the Aston Martin I did a test drive with, which I did, and I'm just checking it to see if the tyres are sanded, and they're not. So again, 5 laps, and we're going to see how it matches up to the Unmodified Corvette. The whole point of this test was to show that we weren't just modifying the Corvette beyond the capabilities of other cars, and it's a very, very nice car to drive, this Aston Martin. It was a bit stiff, and it did have a digital chip in it, which would have slightly altered the effects of the car, but only in braking. But I was braking quite a lot with the car because it was just the way I was driving it. It's a very nice car to drive. If you've seen the test drive, then you know what I'm talking about. And I enjoyed driving all the cars. To be honest, this one felt the slowest out of all of them. The Corvette felt lighter, whereas this one felt quite heavy and bulky as it was going around the track. Even though it felt heavy, it was only 0.1 second slower than the Audi. It's at 6.7 seconds.
So in the end, the Corvette Modified was fastest, followed by the Audi R8, followed by the Aston Martin, very close between those two by the way, and in the distance was the Scalextric attempt of a Corvette. Now, like my brother just said, there's nothing that he did that Scalextrics couldn't do, i.e. change the magnet. And if you're watching Scalextrics, which probably highly unlikely, please change it. Why bother changing it in the first place? Just change it back to the original. It's gonna, it's gonna improve the car so much. You had a potential for the best car you could release, and now it's one of the worst cars that you've released. So that's a bit of a hard truth. And on that bombshell, we end.